My name is Richard Gill. On behalf of ABODA, the Australian Band and Orchestra Directors Association, welcome to Sydney for this wonderful national conference, which is the first time in 18 years that it's been held in this wonderful city at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music. These conferences are important, I think, for two reasons. One, we're introduced to international guests and national guests who have much to offer teachers in the way of tips for conducting, rehearsing, music selection. And the second reason, colleagues from all over the country get to meet each other and exchange views. This exchange of views between teachers, conductors, students and the like is very important. It helps us all realize that even though we may be working a little bit in isolation, there are other people who share our isolation and who understand where we come from musically. So events of this nature are incredibly important. This conference, and this is a very important thing to say, welcomes everybody. This conference is not necessarily about the band or orchestra conductor who's been conducting for 30 or 40 years. This is a conference which welcomes beginners, instrumental beginners, beginner conductors, beginner orchestrators, beginner improvisers, beginner composers, people who are halfway along in their career, whatever it might be. The conference is saying we are interested in all levels of participants. So one shouldn't feel that I've only been conducting for 3 weeks, this conference has nothing for me. That's not true. If you've been conducting for 3 weeks, you'll be inspired to continue conducting for possibly another 3 weeks. So why not come along and try this conference and see the wonderful world of ideas which is available to you. It's a great pleasure to welcome two headliners at this conference, H. Robert Reynolds from the University of Southern California, Thornton School of Music, whose views on pedagogy and whose potency as a commissioner of new music is internationally recognized, and Sandra Dachau from the Eastman School of Music, who will have many, many strong views about orchestral training in high schools. So based on these wonderful headliners, H. Robert Reynolds and Sandra Dachau, I would encourage all participants to register for at least one of their sessions because they have an enormous amount to offer. So along with these international guests, we should really know that we have people of exactly the same caliber here in Australia. Let's start with Judy Bailey, one of Australia's great pianists, a great jazz musician, a composer and an arranger, and someone with whom I hope to study the minute I can find some time. So Judy is a marvellous asset in this conference. Then we have one of Australia's great band directors, Stephen Williams. Stephen probably knows more about bands in this country than any other person I know, and he will offer participants an enormous amount of information. Brian Buggy, who ran one of this country's most successful music departments at Knox School in Sydney, New South Wales, will also be presenting. He has an incredible wealth of knowledge about bands and orchestras. And of course, Götz Richter, a violinist who sat on the front desk of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra for a number of years, will have an incredible amount of information to offer about orchestral playing, working as a string player in an orchestra. So there is an incredible wealth and depth of talent from our own people, supported by two really special international headliners. Along with all these wonderful international and local presenters giving masterclasses and the like, there'll be opportunities to watch ensembles perform. Sydney Conservatorium ensembles, senior school ensembles, primary school ensembles, the secondary school winds ensemble from the New South Wales Performing Arts Unit, a very special big band giving a performance. So there'll be performances at all levels in the same way that there will be participants at all levels. So not only will you have an opportunity for classes, an observation about techniques and the like, but to actually listen to ensembles making music, so you can gauge where your ensemble sits and also learn something about the way in which ensembles work. From my point of view, one of the most significant things happening at this conference is the session on commissioning new work. All music was new once, and unless we have a continuing supply of new work, children, music students, musicians still tend to play the same old tried and trusted favourites. So this session on commissioning is really important. And here you'll learn all sorts of things about how do you organise commissioning. Maybe you can organise it through 4 or 5 schools commissioning one composer, and that work is played 4 or 5 times in different schools. All that information will be in this session. And as someone who's been commissioning music from composers for 53 years, I can assure you this is an incredibly important activity. I'd be enrolling for that session first. We, as music educators and participants in music education, know that we can have a profound effect on the lives of children. Long after children have left school, they'll remember the music. They'll remember the band, the orchestra, the choir, the works they've played, the works they've sung. And you are responsible for that. This community of musicians working to change children's lives through music and to change lives generally through music is a potent force for good in a world which seems to have lost its way. Music is a tremendous way in which we can work as a community and unite the world.